Welcome back once again to Castle Motors, the Automation Campaign version 4.1 Let's Play, where we started at the very bottom at 100 times difficulty with a tiny factory, and then we started making tons of money, and now we're back to just scraping by again. If you've been watching, you already know. We've been going through the years, mostly making big, heavy, ladder frame trucks, SUVs, delivery vehicles. Only just in the last episode, we've made our first supercar. Our current lineup consists of strong seller, the Ayrudzi, which is our new mainline vehicle. It's got a Jeep-like body. The Nakharar, our new supercar. And both of these are just starting to slow down in sales after the last facelift. We're trying to build up a little stock on our dealership lots. The Garderobe, our ugly red-headed stepchild, which was designed to sell in Arcana's very poor and impoverished markets, but has not been selling very well at all. The Sipahi, our smaller off-road vehicle SUV. The Basilic, our muscle pickup truck. And lastly, but not least, the Kalemegdan, our minivan type vehicle, which also has our main delivery variant after we replaced our old model of SUV that had a delivery option with the newer Ayrudzi, which does not. And that's selling quite well. So, the Sipahi, Basilic, they're selling out. The Kalemegdan, Nakharar, Ayrudzi, they're selling moderately. And the Garderobe, that's selling just terrible. And I spent like a couple episodes trying to figure out why. And I think it ultimately does come back not to the car itself, which it says is horrible, but it's horrible by international standards. I really made this to sell in the Arcana market. That is the big poor country here. It's sort of analogous to Russia, or the Eastern Bloc. And if you look here, I've got our markets at dealership levels in Arcana, and they're very low. In fact, I think that these max out at 10 is high dealerships, and 1 is like doing okay. Look at their characters. How are we doing? Yeah. So compared to like Gazmia, where we've been the whole time, right? In our big markets, like delivery, we have dealership levels of 9.44, where 10 is the max. So almost anywhere you live in the country, you can find a dealership that sells our cars. In Arcana, where we've only recently had access to in the last 10 years, we've been spending money on marketing and stuff, but our dealerships basically don't exist still. Like, I'm not sure, I think it's like a bell curve kind of thing, but probably less than 10% of the country has access to a dealership selling our cars. So when we build a car like the Garderobe, that's cheap, not very safe, meant to sell in Arcana, that's why it's not selling, because the dealerships just haven't grown that fast. Now, we spent a lot of money on marketing still, but you can see there's a dealership level exists in say for delivery here it's 0.36, and a dealership happiness of 45.61%. And the happier the dealer is, the faster they're going to grow. But we're just not selling that many cars, so the dealerships aren't that happy with us. In fact, the dealership happiness is a little bit of a weird stat. It seems to depend a lot on how much money, in absolute terms, the dealer makes from each sale of a car. Which is also low, because we're trying to sell budget cars. You can see, for example, that although their dealerships aren't large, these supercar, hypercar type car dealers, they're pretty happy with us, because they're making a big margin when they sell one of our Nakharar supercars. Now, for this episode, we're of course going to need to update our vehicles for the 21st century, because it's 1999 now. We need to party accordingly, and that's probably going to mean updating our cars with new advanced features like electronic stability control. We'll see if we can get that engineered in a timely fashion. We might consider replacing the Kalemegdan, which has been around for a while, with a newer body. We'll see. And something I definitely want to do is try and break into a market I'm always trying to break into, which is utility sport, where we're selling to around 10% of the buyers who could be buying from us. And I always thought we could do better in that area. Consider, for example, we've got well more than that for super hypercars, well, less for supercars. In delivery, our big bread and butter market, about like half of the people who know about our dealerships and could be buying from us are buying from us. So I'd like to see us break into that market, and I've already done a little experimenting to know kind of what they want. Let's aim for Sport Utility Premium as a base market. And of course, they're only interested in SUVs. I'm going to filter us down to only SUVs. Now, the body I'm definitely looking at is this. The big Humvee looking thing. That's perfect for us. The bigger, the boxier, the better. That is the Castle Motors mantra. We started out always trying to make ugly bricks, and this certainly fits the bill. So what are we going to make it out of? We're going to make it out of steel, probably. And now, here's what you'd think when you see a car like this, right? You expect a ladder frame, that's your body-on-frame design, what all the real big work trucks have. You'd expect solid axles all around, so it has good off-road capability. And I'm definitely going to come back to this screen. We're going to move it around and see what I can do to make it really sell to that sport utility market. And unfortunately, some of you might be disappointed. And since it's 1999, we'll have to update any engine we use, I think. And we're going to put the Grand in here. That is a 5.5 liter 6-cylinder boxer engine, which we use for our muscle car and the like. It doesn't seem like it's going to need a lot of changes to be competitive. We're going to make it all-wheel drive, not 4x4, because that's a lot more convenient for road cars. Automatic transmission, 6 speeds, the very latest tech from us. Put a manual locker in there. Of course, you have to have some big tires and some big wheels. It's starting to look a little more like it. So what you're seeing me put together here basically is, you know, what you'd expect for a good off-road vehicle. It just has interior of premium stuff. You have the nice power steering. We're going to have electronic stability control, which we finally have a good percentage of familiarity in, because we need that to cut down the massive engineering time it takes to make. We get the most advanced safety we can. Actually, it might be a good idea to... So it's built now as an off-road car. But Utility Sport Premium, they don't like that. They say it's subpar, where 100 would make it equal to the best competitors on sale right now. And of course, any car we design isn't coming out right now, it's coming out in a few years, and it needs to be better. It needs to have more than 100 score compared to what is on sale right now. So we're going to go back and we're going to do what they like. And it turns out, because I messed with this earlier, what they really like is a comfortable road car that happens to have a large SUV body. Really, it's similar to the sort of SUVs that have replaced minivans in recent years. So first I can go to double wishbones all around. Now even putting double wishbones on the rear is kind of out there for us at Castle Motors. We like to keep things simple. Use a lot of solid axles. But we've got a little experience with this from our latest supercar project. So right off the bat, they like that a ton more. It's not as good at off-roading, but you know, it is what it is. Now if I were to go to monocoque, make this thing a unibody, that would just make a massive difference. But I'm going to try to keep it at ladder because we have so much familiarity in that area. I think I can just add like some quality points on, and still it'll be cheaper to engineer this. Can go to treated steel body panels, make it a little more rust resistant. That's a chunk of engineering time, go figure. The engine, just get that tuned right in there. In fact, I think I might be able to rev it higher. We're losing max power just because of our rev limit on this engine. It's so big, it's hard to rev up all the way. And reliability is important for us. We don't really want any like high stress over here. You can gain a few points for revving this higher, but I think we're going to have to stick with the engine being weird as it is. Because they don't want a lower cam profile or anything. So we've got our all-wheel drive. They do like the manual locker in there, and that's a classic for us. We're going to stick with it. Seems like their top speed around there. And with some wide gearing, that gets us utility, that gets us fuel efficiency, it gets us some 0 to 60 time as well. Wheels? I actually thought they prefer the medium compound tires. That's kind of high comfort tires. But they do seem to prefer the long lives. That's at least something interesting to see. We have a lot of brake fade in regards to utility. Rear disc brakes. That'd also be a bit of a supercar feature as far as Castle Motors is concerned. There, we can up the power of the brakes a lot. And I would say we definitely want to reduce the pads, make them softer, get that comfort in there. But they do seem to also care about the utility brake fade. Yeah, I guess the big thing is they prefer a unibody car on wishbone suspension rather than a ladder on solid axles. Because they want a road car, not an off-road car. Just big and kind of looks like an off-road car. We can keep the off-road skid tray too, go figure. Max out the cooling airflow. Add some brake airflow, because we know the brakes, they fade, they get hot. On that brake screen over there. It does add a little engineering time, all this aerodynamics. Now there is down there Utility Sport Luxury, which we may want to appeal to at some point. For now I'm just going to put +3 quality on our premium stuff. And how many seats do they want? They want 4 to 7 seats. So we have 5 right now, including a back bench seat. And yes, sure enough, they prefer 2 seats and 2 seats, because that 3-person bench seat, automation always counts it as very uncomfortable. You can see we jumped from 38 to 42 in comfort by taking that seat out. I guess they kind of, it does always suck to have that person in the middle, even in a big car, but automation is pretty harsh on it. Still going to go low quality on the control system side, because that's just a massive chunk of engineering for us. Oh yeah, we can get active comfort suspension for air springs. Yeah, that gets us a few points. I guess that's where we end up, is actively adjusted springs, but not computer adjusted dampers, sway bars. And if we look at the suspension setup that's come up with us, or for us here, it looks good. It's fairly soft springs. They like that for comfort. We have a roll angle of 3.4, so we need to take some roll bars out, maybe. Maybe also get some ride height into the mix, which they don't like that's reducing our practicality stat. That's that accessibility comes in again. When we get the vehicle too tall, it's hard for people to climb into. Now, I think it's treating the bottom as the body, as this front bumper here. So realistically, you'd think it'd be very accessible because you just have to step up to the bottom of this door. Although, I think automation is counting the bottom of this car as, right here. So it's actually quite a high step up, fortunately. And see that, the body is like down below the chassis. That's a bit of a discrepancy between the art and the numbers. Which this is a mod body, so they're not perfect all the time. Anyway, I need to take a lot of sway bars out, get my roll angle back into the like 5 to 7 range, where you expect for a normal, comfortable car. Now they actually like a stiffer rear roll bar because it's getting us some sportiness. This thing can actually do some street handling. Oh gosh, they want it stanced. They want some camber. They do. It gets us a little more corner in G. We have 1 degree on camber. We're not exactly stanced out yet. If I choose to, I can actually take this number to. So the way camber works is a bit weird, right? So you go to 3 degrees or negative 3 degrees, and that's as high as you can ever realistically use in the game. They don't like that slightly as much. One of the downsides, we have a 2.5 times tire costs service multiplier. You can actually see now the camber a good bit. That means that the tire is going to wear out faster. Now, for some reason, after negative 3, you can go to much higher numbers, but I would click the button just once. It goes 2 degrees instantly and whacks everything out. So we can go to 5, go to 7, go to 9, all the way up to, if I wanted to, 30 degrees camber. And I just don't even know why this feature's in the game. Because if you can't fine-tune by 0.1 degrees at a time, honestly, you're never going to come up with something that the customers actually like. And honestly, like, who needs camber like this? Oh. The worst thing is, I could sell it this way. It's worse, right? But it wouldn't stop them from buying it. And I wanted to sell them this car that, like, drives on the sidewalls. And I have no words for this crime against the automotive industry, but I'm gonna make our camber something a little more reasonable. 1 degree on each wheel, probably. I need a couple more points, but I make the suspension really mushy. You lose some sportiness, but they don't mind. So there we have our big, mushy, cushy, still at least a ladder frame SUV. I have to take some pride in never having built a monocoque frame in this game. We used a space frame for our supercar, but other than that, it's all been ladder frame. Actually, I should consider the min-maxi option of light truck monocoque, which they like a lot, and we still have familiarity in it. Now that's not a sort of construction you'd ever see on a car like this. It's like this cabin in the front would be monocoque and the rest would be sitting on a frame. You normally see that for pickup trucks. It gets them the strength of frame for the rear, but the rigidity of monocoque in the front. We'll just stick to ladder. I can have my pride in never having built any monocoque, which is very unusual for an automation campaign. Because that's just normally how you build cars. Oh, and now that my brake fade is solved somewhat with airflow, they do like the softer brake pads. So that's where we are with this car. Just kind of bias. One more place I can get a little bit of points out of is just slightly front biasing the all-wheel drive system. Thinking the white color works. This is a bit of a luxury car for us. It seems to use our supercar and throwing and stuff. Now, before I quite go ahead with that, I also want to make sure we have a utility sport luxury targeted vehicle. So we're just going to take this. We're going to throw the luxury interior and the luxury CD player on there. That'll sell for a little more money. In fact, since I'm at it, not that I really want to engineer 3 different car interiors, I can see if I appeal the utility sport a little more by going down to standard. And it does a little bit. This is actually not very affordable at all, too. But that might have to wait until later. If it's not selling well, I'll make a cheaper version for a facelift. One thing I can also check is if they want the Grand Turbo for the luxury version. They have a stupid fast SUV. Yeah, they do like that a little more. Yeah, why not sell this thing with a 500 horsepower racing engine type thing? So, spreading our theme further across Eastern Europe, we have the suggestion to name the car the Ataman. And where are we going to build it? It may be time to make a new factory. How big are the markets we're targeting anyway? Demographic sizes, limit to awareness, sport utility, premium and luxury is about 4,000 cars altogether. Might want to just make this in a medium factory. Can make a new factory for that. Always made in Gazmia. Oh, large only. That's because I wanted to have a treated steel plant, huh? That's only in large factories. That's kind of arbitrary, but see how we're looking. That's going to make too many. I don't think I can possibly sell 3,378 of these things. I think it's a regular luxury market, 2,000. I'm not sure we even appeal to it very much. So I'm probably going to have to drop the treated steel from the design. Yeah, this thing's too chunky to sell to the regular luxury markets. That only loses a couple points and saves us a lot of factory inconvenience. Keep this cheap, we're going to buy even a medium plot. A medium-sized 2 factory, maybe. Should do us about right. Put the QA testing on there. Ooh. Base recall percentage of 1.1% each month. That's too high. That's why I need that QA facility, so I can get this QA threshold up there. Afford a little tooling quality. Leave the automation right where it's at. And we're looking at 100 months to engineer this. Chassis is significant because we have that double wishbone on all axles going on. The interior is a whole lot. We have a lot of new stuff going on there, don't we? Drivetrain's a pretty big deal. It might be a little rough starting this off on 2 different interiors. This is like our biggest area besides the chassis. I just take the quality off. How much does that help me? Maybe go to lose the luxury CD player, keep the luxury interior. Yeah, quality seems to contribute very little engineering time. That saved us, well, only like 5 months overall. You can see interior went from 44 to 32, just dropping that luxury CD player, only having the premium CD player in both cars. Honestly, a good thing we're making this a ladder frame, because I think we'd have just not enough time to engineer the monocoque or something properly. Oh, I see. We have +3 quality. That's getting too greedy. Let's look at that +1. Now, how are we looking? Saved us another 4 months. I think we're doing okay. I could also see what happens if I take it down to a 5-speed automatic, maybe. They rather do not like that. Guess we just have to accept that it's pretty expensive to make our all-wheel drive cars. Make sure you have the same options in both. Cool, yep, looks all the same, so not paying for anything twice. Get down to 80 months with some funding. Lose some automation. Lose some process, makes these cars more expensive. A little pressure on. Yeah, we can get it done in 5.5 years, and it'll have to be acceptable. I've just done one pass over the engines. I'll have to tweak them a little more as I go and update the other cars that use those engines. And we're going to aim for selling this thing at a 50% price margin. Look at the budgets of our targets. See, premium has around 30,000, luxury around 60,000. So these are coming in awfully cheap, honestly. I could go for... I try and sell them at 70. And always... well, no, I should probably keep it lower. I want to get like most of them affording me. Always going for 100% pre-order deposit, because that keeps things from going crazy. Now, we're not signing that off just yet until we've tweaked the other cars that use that engine, and really we need to update everything else while we're here. So, the Basilic. What changes does it need? The Mark III. So the Basilic had a -6 quality on the ESC we put in before. I'm going to try and bring that all the way up to 0 average quality. We'll see how much engineering time that puts on us. Yes, we can easily afford to do a lot of engineering on a Basilic. Put 0 pressure on them. And in 5 years, we can make that a little more reliable and cheap. I don't remember what margin I was selling this thing at, but what the heck, let's go for 60%. And the Nakharar is getting its first facelift. Suddenly it says we're appealing to the GT market, which it hadn't as much before. Whereas if I take Arcana out, that doesn't change anything. So yeah, it's about what it's appealing to. Muscle premium, of course. We really want to solve all of our RPM issues with this engine. We can get the CNC workshop going. That'd get us to 7,000 RPM with no reliability issues. Supposedly they don't like the car revving that high as much, but I think it might be a top speed thing I can go and tweak. Bigger exhaust with a second muffler on it, makes it a little quieter but keeps the same power. What a goofy looking turbo setup. Yeah, that's an awkward pipe. From, and they call it a short cast, looks like the cast log exhaust headers too. Coming up in, I think after 4.2, but they've already started working on it, is a lot of arc changes for the turbos, and balance changes as well. Look at the options, you choose different headers and stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. I guess I've retroactively changed the SUV that's using that engine too. Hopefully it's fine. Not entirely sure what GT doesn't like about me having added RPM to the rev range here, but whatever. So you can see the Nakharar is selling, or supposedly going to sell, more to GT and muscle premium than a super or hyper. I think with our 6-cylinder engine, it's hard to make the power. It's really a hypercar. Probably like carbon fiber chassis and stuff too, but doing okay. We also brought a lot of negative quality out again. We used to build it the first time. Since we're on a 5-year schedule now, I have added. I've basically brought the sliders back to normal for pressure, which is now 0, to get more familiarity on those high-tech bits that are in the car. Be a little cheaper, more usable car, the second generation. Yes, and we need a CNC workshop added on to the engine factory. What I might end up doing is just adding a second small factory that has a CNC workshop, because we're not making enough engines, even with a massive amount of automation added. So there, we have a medium factory making only the muscle version of the Grand engine. And the Super Grand is going to go with its own smaller factory, which still have to have a forged, which have forged and CNC mixed in there. I haven't got the titanium pistons yet, or whatever the CNC version is. Ooh. 1,100 is what I make the small 3. That's just not going to be enough. Huh, and at some point my engineering numbers went crazy. I guess it's all that bottom end quality going on. That should make enough engines. If you should have one factory making each kind. And we'll just start off at a 70% markup. So there, that's everything based around the Grand engine ready to update at once, although the Ataman is going to take 6 more months. We're going to assign everything off separately. Otherwise, it'll delay everything so it finishes at the same time as the Ataman. So those are happening. Now our regular cars. Maybe it is time to replace the Kalemegdan, huh? So this 2002 3.1 meter monster. See how that shakes out for us. You can try and double wishbone the whole thing if I want. Well, that might be a little crazy for just a regular van for my company anyway. Put the leaf springs in back, give it lots of capacity. I think actually the last one had semi-trailing on it. Yeah, this was on a previous Kalemegdan. We'll keep that for a baseline. And this would be starting to update the mill series of engines. Of course, they want to update the other cars that use them. We certainly have a car that appeals to the family utility market when I put this together. That's a sign we're on a good track. See, the higher the top speed, the wider the gears, the better the gas mileage. More or less. That's a little too extreme. Honestly, it almost looks like a sporty gear tuning graph. You start short and you end with your top speed lining up close to your peak power. Although your top speed's only 108 miles an hour in this case. So they're at 182 family utility score. Now my experiment I like to do is see if a car is really worth it to replace the model. Is I could just go to the Nakharar, or not the Nakharar, the Kalemegdan, make a facelift, and see what we're scoring for a hypothetical facelifted version. I'm not going to fine tune or anything to see if it's close. Oh yeah, this thing's been front wheel drive. So we can see we're in like the 130s range. I think 180 makes it worth it to try and build that new car. I'm going to cancel the facelift of the Kalemegdan and go ahead and make our... I'll just call it the Kalemegdan II because I'm running out of names. And we're also going to want a little more premium version. Would they want the larger engine, I wonder? So this would be the 1999 new version of our 3.5 liter mill engine. Just using more of our regular service trucks and stuff, not the cheap stuff. And we're at 151 in family utility premium, just off the bat with this. So yeah, they like that slightly more. We can go for it. So we can see here, we've got a little interest from the regular family markets as well. Not as much, but it's there. And I think that'll about sum that up. And the last new version I have to make is the livery. And once again, I think we're going to see that, yeah, the load capacity is not great. It's actually a little more tolerable in this version. But, yeah, we're there despite the semi-trailing arm, so I'll use this for even heavy delivery. I think maybe the AI just does not really compete in that market. And since we're doing, 275, I don't really need to sit here and tune it, make it perfect. There we are. 3 separate colors for the trims. And factory will just replace the Kalemegdan. This leads us all to engineering time, and once again, we find ourselves on a crunch. Driver assists 50 months. You know what that means? It means going back to each one individually and reducing that quality, because plus 0 in ESC, too much. -5 will serve as well. There's supposed to be a feature coming in one of the later versions where you can make a change in one trim and have it instantly copied to the others. So that would save me, 4 loading screens in this circumstance. And that altogether has saved us about a year. That's good. We can just throw money at it to get it a good chunk of the way down. And not that I like to for what's supposed to be a low expense car. We can cut down a little automation. Get this out the door. And we have here a set of price margins. You can see I put a heavier margin on the premium version of the car to stratify those prices a bit. And once again, it's a 5-year plan, so we usually round down to. But it's going to mean updating the Ayrudzi, the Sipahi, and not the Kalemegdan because that's getting replaced. And I'll just skim through those real quick for you. If I can do it, I'll be trying to give the Sipahi the cheapo electric power steering. That might be a lot of engineering time burden, since I've already done variable hydraulic. Yeah, now the difference isn't that much. I'll stick with variable hydraulic. And I get some off-road sway bars, which we have a description here as to how that's actually supposed to be different. Okay, so it says an off-road sway bar has an unlocking thing so it can bend a whole lot when you go off-road. Cool. Good to know. We can see here that the Sipahi is well due for a upgrade in the factory size. Uh-oh, it's warning me that I left the old engine in this one. I change it for each trim. Don't forget, or you're up with a car that you can't actually sell any of. 500 competitiveness and off-road utility, it said there. It's now down to 438 when I go to this screen, but whatever. That's pretty good. And 109 months to engineer driver assists. Interesting. So what have I screwed up here? Variable hydraulic, ESC, 0 quality on the utility version. And the off-road, variable hydraulic, ESC, 0 quality. Just not seeing what's making them so different. I'm assuming they're the same as each other anyway. But wow, 109 months of engineering. That's more than it was for other cars that I added ESC to that already had power steering. So I can't even begin to understand what the issue is. It might be that the Sipahi just does not get to come with us into the new age of traction control. Either that or I wasn't paying attention, I had basic hydraulic before. That's why it's so expensive. And yeah, Suddenly, just by taking the ESC off, we're down from 100 months of driver assist engineering to 4.6. Maybe if I tweak the funding and pressure, I can afford it. Sorry I spent so long on the Sipahi when I said I'd skip right through it, but I gotta figure out this sort of stuff. And honestly, I hope some people are watching and figuring out why they're having trouble if they're trying to play a campaign. This sort of weird crap that gets you can be pretty important to understand. So you don't just get to the engineering screen and say, oh, 110 months, I guess it is what it is. So I put normal pressure, normal funding. Nah, we're nowhere near affording that. I could probably do it at like minus a million quality, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. If I go to minus 6, I'm just going to see what the engineering time is. And if I crank up the pressure and the funding, I can just get it done. And maybe I will, because I just want to start having ESC as a standard feature in my cars. Now the Ayrudzi gets his facelift. Let's see, and the utility gets a 3.5 liter engine. Good. Little tuning. Ooh, that's a lot of brake fade. They want some crazy brake vents, so I guess that they can keep their brakes cool on the highway or whatever. I honestly wouldn't think brake heat would be a big issue for an off-road utility vehicle, no matter how much crap it's hauling. And in this case, they just don't care that much for ESC. So I have to struggle again. Do I want to try and make it a standard feature or not? And try and put that -6 ESC in here, because I think we're cruising for the same situation. Once again, the off-road version here gets some brake tweaks and airflow. Come on, loading thing. Finish. Okay, after all those changes, all the cars have a brake tweak, all the cars have electronic stability control. I'm going to maybe avoid upgrading the factory for them for now. And yeah, for whatever reason on this one, the driver assist isn't a massive engineering value. I don't know what's happened with the Sipahi. This is the second generation of this car. There's a good opportunity for us to get these sliders up there, have a tried and true, tested and affordable vehicle we can mass produce easily. I cannot wait until it saves your margin and deposit percentage when you make a new facelift. That will save me some effort. It's like we're right on the edge for the engine here. This reminds me, I want to maybe make sure I have a variable valve time in a 3.0 if I don't already. I do. So 3.5 just didn't have it for some reason. Cool, so that thing's going to take 6 months. And we gotta make sure those factories are pumping out enough of them. Alright, just some factory sliders, and we are right on the margin of having enough engines. Assuming that these factories aren't all maxed out all the time, the car factories, then the engine factory should be able to keep up okay. And we're looking at a $3.35 billion plan here. Because I think some of these are getting upgraded factories, a lot of engineering. Go ahead and take out a loan for half that much. Pay off over 48 months. And that's it. That's our big 5-year plan for the regular models. Now only one thing remains, and that is the garderobe. Now that thing, as far as I can tell, what's really wrong with it is just that it doesn't appeal to markets other than Arcana, and we're having a hard time establishing dealerships in Arcana. So I'm going to see what I can do to get these up to date, and maybe I'll even make some trims that are a little more expensive to appeal to the regular markets. Just going to mean, yeah, bringing the safety up to standard. That does add $500 of material costs. Oof. I have to update the chambermaid engine. It's not getting anything fancy, but it is getting 9-to-1 compression. And having done everything I can to keep this car cheap, well, there's not a lot to it. Now, I still really like my idea of selling cheap, crappy, unsafe cars to, the people who will buy them. Is it ethical? No. Is it profitable? Certainly. And that might mean doing something I almost never do, which is dual engineering my safety. And that's going to have some consequences on the engineering time. We're going to see if it's going to work. So basically what I want to do is I have these export versions for Arcana, stay with the crappy safety, and then I'm gonna, make the Gasmian domestic market versions, right? And they're gonna have some actual safety features. But we can still sell the ones that are cheaper with less actual material cost and production units to the foreign markets. So for the Gasmian domestic market version, just going to see, if we take Arcana out, we average out to 0. There's a low safety penalty of 100% because it's illegal to sell the car. There, advanced 90s safety. Slightly wider front tires to balance that out. And we're selling it, apparently, or we're going to. It's got a number. I'm going to keep the rest as is, just keep it very cheap. Apparently the family version actually had a higher safety, so it wasn't under the minimum or whatever. And put that one with advanced safety too. And it's not getting a factory upgrade right now, because, it's just not performing. And even with 2 safety types to engineer, the old and new version, we are only at 48 months of engineering, and that's pretty good, I think. I think we're doing okay there, for what's normally like a costly way of going about things. We're spending a lot on engineering in cash, but whatever. So I'm going to put 15% margins on the export versions to keep them extremely cheap. And maybe 30% margins on the Gasmian domestic market versions. We're going to find out if this is the change that makes the Garderobe, profitable. I just thought of something interesting. So the forecast tool down here, right? It basically estimates how much profit you're making based on the cost of tooling, engineering, and stuff. But this estimated income and profit, total units sold a year is estimated. So by the 5th year, it's going to sell 1.8 million units, right? That changes based on the pre-orders. Or I sure thought it did. Year 5 says the same for the earlier. I guess only estimating pre-orders will be selling more in the first year, which is what you'd expect. Although I thought this was pretty much unchanged from version 3.7, so I'm actually surprised that it counts for pre-orders anyway. Whew. $600 million just to engineer and retool, basically. Our company's getting expensive to keep up. So there it is. We are ready to go into the 21st century. And it looks like our profits are only growing. Yes, as we start to sell more of our newer cars, the factories balance out their workload to the demand. Uh-oh. Okay, the graph just freaked out for a minute. I saw the profit go to 0 for 1 month, but then it fixed itself. That was alarming. Nice, and we're now bringing in more than 100 million a month. This means it might be time to do something I haven't done in a while and revisit that research screen. I've been spending 20 million a month on R&D, and we can definitely afford to spend more than that. Get $10 more million just in the fuel systems, exhausts. Unlocking more buys isn't going to be a big deal for us, because most of them unlock in 2012, which are coming up on. Drivetrain Trek for sure. Gotta get those high-speed automatics. Driver assists, definitely. Engine top end. What else we got going? Yeah, there we are. We're at $50 million spent on R&D, and as for marketing, how much more can I afford to spend? Definitely up our sportiness marketing, actually, because we're starting to sell a supercar. We need to advertise that accordingly. Yet we are spending a good chunk more on marketing. Almost maxing out marketing in Arcana. And put some cash into Deluha as well. Alright, so now with our ballooned R&D and marketing budgets, oof, spending about like $100 million more, which is a lot more money than I thought I was increasing it by, but oh well. If it comes around to more car sales, it betters our score, and if we're making less profits, then we're paying less taxes. As you can see, we're paying $500 million of taxes this year. That's okay, we've got many billions in the bank. So it looks like all of our 5-year plans will be coming up in 2004. We're getting into the time period of cars that I've actually driven in real life. It's getting a little closer to home. And our profits are continuing to grow nicely. So we are just raking in the dough. It looks like our score has surpassed 1.1 million. That's pretty good. Sitting on 7 billion in the bank. Certainly, in as much as I can be bothered, we can afford to get some more huge factories going and really mop up those markets. Pre-orders for new models are starting to come in. And we just paid back some old pre-orders. The tune of, let's see, if our regular expenses were sitting at 0.6 billion, our expenses that month were 2.4 billion. Yeah, I must have paid about $1.2 billion worth of pre-orders back. And 2004, in the summer, our new vehicles have hit the market, and we are losing money for the moment. You can see the Ataman come out as well. That thing seems to be selling excellent. In fact, we have a lot of cars that are selling excellent. So there we are, we're back to making a great profit on our new generation of cars. And even though we're at 100% pre-orders, most of our factories are now extremely maxed out. I could have actually, in retrospect, I didn't know if I was going to make this kind of profit or not. If I had known, I definitely would have started doubling up on factories for all of these models. And we have $10 billion sitting in the bank. That's basically wasted potential score, because we could be selling more cars with more factories. You don't really want to have a ton of money just sitting in the bank in automation. It's certainly not enough to build several huge factories. Now, what's selling great? The Kalemegdan is selling great. It's not deep in pre-orders. The Ataman is selling super great, and it is deep in pre-orders. Not like unrealistically so. But there's a year wait list for the cheaper version. That can definitely get more expensive. The Ayrudzi is pretty close to on balance, actually. There's pre-orders for the cheaper utility version. Everything else has just a small amount of dealership stock. The Nakharar is deep in pre-orders because I priced it too cheap. I guess I had it at 100% margin before. So we'll go back to that. The Garderobe is pretty close to on balance. We have, well, the factory is only running at 70%, but we're not building up a massive amount of vehicles in stock, and we're actually selling and making some money, I think. It says we're losing money up here, but it seems to always say that. I don't know how that's calculated. Like, it says basically most of my models are losing money. If I just add up this profit and loss for all the models, I wouldn't get this income of 177 million. That wouldn't be correct at all. The Sipahi is not selling great. It's actually our slowest seller, slower than the Garderobe now. But it hasn't hit the bottom amount of factory utilization. So that's good. So I guess in the next episode I'll have to price up some cars. I have no idea what we need to build next. We're getting to the point where we're only going to have 1 or 2 episodes of actually building cars left. We'll build a generation of cars coming up here, and then our last facelift or so is going to happen in the early 2010s. And by the time we start selling them, coming in 16, 17 hopefully, then there won't be enough time before the game ends in 2020 to make anything else. So about 2 episodes left, and we're just going to see what we can make that's interesting. It's probably time to go hog wild and do something weird. And certainly if I want to maximize my score, my money, I can start doubling down, adding multiple factories to a lot of these cars that are in production here. Now let's see. Before we go, I want to review the markets. How are we doing? We are starting to sell 1,500 utility sports, 374 to sport premium, 57 to luxury. It's better than before. Look at just Gasmia. The numbers by percentage are a little better. Limit to awareness, about 10% is what we're hitting. I'd say that's pretty good. It's not dominating the market, but it's a good market share. Heavy delivery, still our best seller. In Arcana, have we started to sell more cars? Basically no. We're selling a few thousand now, actually. Or a couple thousand. In some of these budget groups, in some delivery, some utility. We don't have any big market shares at all. Except for, well, apparently we sold 1 luxury premium car, and that was one of the 3 sold. That's probably our new SUV, the Ataman. Deluha. City Eco. They're buying some of our garderobes with the actual safety now, maybe. And Gasmi in the Western world. We're doing pretty good. Nothing wild is happening with the markets that I need to point out. And what do we have for new bodies? Now that it is 2005, looks like we've unlocked bodies up to 2011. We have a lot of mod bodies to choose from, which are potentially useful here. I like this big Sprinter van, actually, a lot. This compact van is kind of interesting. We've got potentially could be a new Sipahi, and this small off-roady thing. I'm actually filtered by vans, so I should look at everything. Here we go. 2012 actually we have. So 2012 is, I believe, when the last vanilla bodies normally unlock. Although I'm not seeing, or 2011 I guess is when the last vanilla bodies normally unlock. The game started development, I think, in 2012. So that's kind of the still treated as the current day for the purposes of this game. The money is supposed to be inflation adjusted to 2012 approximately. Of course, it doesn't really translate to any one nation currency, but it's there. And the newest bodies are kind of the generation of SUVs that started coming out around 2012. We've got that looks like a van, but it's a hatchback, apparently. It's an odd choice, but mod body, what can you do? I like this Honda S660 looking thing, but not for our company. We've got a real square looking guy we could do for a funky car. Maybe a more medium shitbox. Got a late model Corvette looking thing here. Like that for maybe a supercar. You can see what we've got going on. I'm not using these giant dump truck bodies. They're not as good as you'd think. They're actually disastrous. They don't work well. 4.0 meters wheelbase. This SUV and pickup, pretty much limousine sized. I think if we want to build something crazy, that might be one to go for. See who we can sell that gigantic thing to. Just have the pride of knowing that Castle Motors sells the largest frickin' vehicles around. Or even better, we have an actual stretch limousine SUV body. Who knows what'll happen with that, because, automation's just not designed for stuff that size, but oh well. Regular family cars. If we wanted to hit every market, we could get into regular family cars at the last minute here. That's certainly a lot of cars that sell in that category. It's not very Castle Motors, but we could try it. I'd probably still insist on trying to see if we can sell it with a ladder frame on, though, which in the 21st century is almost unconscionable. I can't think of a sedan you can buy today that's on a ladder frame. But maybe Castle Motors can be the ones to do it. Got a Ford Bronco concept here that turned into a real car rather recently. I think that's what it's supposed to be. And a kind of car version of it. 2008 2.3 meter SUV. That's definitely a fun, tiny SUV. And I like these for a mainline model. This one even has a van variant. So that could actually be a replacement if we wanted to replace our main model, the Jeepy looking thing. You can see obviously now that we're in like 2008, there's just a million bodies. This is when a lot of the bodies that are in the game unlock and start to be available. That Porsche Cayenne looking thing. Oh, this might be a must for us. This is the newest, I think, total rectangle vehicle you can manufacture in automation. And we are just in time. That I might have to make one of these. And then we're back to what we've seen before in 2006. So thanks for watching. Think about all those different bodies we can try, and let me know what you want to see in the comments. It might be time to just build something really absurd or experimental and see what can actually sell in this game.